10 minutes before my vows, my sister took the church microphone and played a fake recording of my fiancé. His voice filled the chapel and said he was only marrying me for my family money. 200 guests turned toward me. My mother covered her mouth. My father froze. But my sister didn't know one thing. Inside my bridal clutch, I had the original recording. And before that ceremony ended, everyone would know who the real liar was. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 31 and I was supposed to marry Daniel Hayes in a white chapel outside Charleston. But in my family, even my wedding stopped belonging to me once my older sister Vanessa touched it. Vanessa chose flowers before I approved them, changed the seating chart twice, and told vendors that I got overwhelmed, so final decisions should go through her. That was Vanessa. She could insult you and make it sound like concern. She could take over your life and call it help. And for years, I let her. Because Vanessa had a way of making everyone believe she was the strong one and I was the fragile one. Since childhood, Vanessa had made my choices sound dangerous and her control sound like protection. After our grandmother died, Grandma left me a small lake house, not a mansion, just a quiet cottage she loved. But Vanessa hated it because Grandma left it to me only. And Vanessa could never forgive a gift she couldn't control. Daniel knew that. He was the first person who ever looked at my family dynamic and didn't call me dramatic. He said, "Your sister doesn't protect you, she edits you." That sentence stayed with me. Maybe because it was the first time someone said the truth without flinching. Daniel was a high school history teacher, not rich, not loud, just steady. He proposed on the porch of that lake house and said, "I want a life with you that no one else gets to vote on." I said yes before he finished asking. Vanessa smiled when I told her. But her eyes didn't. She hugged me too hard and whispered, "Are you sure he's not rushing you?" That was how it started. One small question. Then another. Then another. By wedding week, Vanessa had planted doubt everywhere. To my mother, Daniel wanted the lake house. To my father, his teacher salary was a problem. To my cousins, he had married up before the wedding even happened. I ignored it. I told myself she was being Vanessa. Annoying. Controlling. Insecure. But not dangerous. I was wrong. 3 days before the wedding, Daniel and I went to the chapel for our final walkthrough. Vanessa came too, because of course she did. My best friend Maya came too, because she didn't trust Vanessa. And that day, she noticed something I missed. During the walkthrough, Daniel's phone kept buzzing. At one point, he stepped into the side hallway to take a call. I stayed near the altar with the coordinator, choosing where the unity candle would go. Vanessa followed Daniel. I didn't notice at first. Maya did. She nudged my arm and said quietly, "Why is your sister going after him?" I looked toward the hallway, but they were already gone. 2 minutes later, Vanessa came back smiling. Daniel came back irritated. Not angry. Just tense. I asked him what happened. He said nothing, she was asking weird questions. What kind of weird? He rubbed his forehead. She asked if I understood what marrying into this family meant. Then she asked if I thought your grandmother's house would become marital property. I felt my stomach tighten. What did you say? He said, "I'm marrying you, not a house." I didn't know it yet, but that hallway conversation was about to become the most important proof of my life. I believed him. Because that sounded like Daniel. Then he looked toward Vanessa, who was laughing with the florist, and said, "Claire, I don't want to cause drama before the wedding, but your sister is trying to build a case against me." I wanted to say no. I wanted to say she wouldn't go that far. But deep down, I knew Vanessa always went as far as people allowed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her following Daniel into that hallway. The chapel had cameras in the lobby and the side corridor because the coordinator had mentioned it during our tour. At 1:12 in the morning, I emailed the venue. I wrote that I needed to confirm something from the walkthrough and asked if there was any audio or video from the side hallway. I didn't expect a quick reply. But at 7:30 the next morning, the coordinator, a woman named Ruth, called me. Her voice was careful. "Claire, I don't usually do this without a formal request, but since it involves your wedding party, you may want to come in." My hands went cold. Maya drove me. I didn't tell Daniel at first. I didn't want to worry him until I knew what I was looking at. Ruth met us in the chapel office with a laptop open. She looked uncomfortable. "There's no camera inside the bridal rooms," she said, but the side hallway camera caught the conversation. "The audio is from the hallway mic. It's not perfect, but it's clear enough." Then she pressed play. On the screen, Daniel stood near the hallway window, phone in hand. Vanessa stepped into frame. She looked different when she didn't know anyone was watching. No soft smile. No gentle sister act. Just cold focus. She said, "You need to understand something. Claire is not strong enough for a hard life." Daniel answered, "Claire is stronger than anyone in your family gives her credit for." Vanessa laughed. "Please," she cries when people raise their voice. Daniel's jaw tightened. "She cries because you people raise your voices and then call it love." Maya looked at me. I couldn't breathe. On the video, Vanessa stepped closer. "Let's stop pretending you're a teacher. Claire has the house, she has grandma's trust money, you know exactly what this marriage does for you." Daniel said, "I don't love Claire for money." Vanessa said, "But you do benefit from it." Daniel exhaled sharply and said, "Anyone who marries anyone shares a life. That doesn't mean I'm marrying her for the lake house." Vanessa tilted her head. "So if she had nothing, you'd still marry her?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Yes." Vanessa said, "Say it clearly." Daniel looked irritated now. "I love Claire. I am not marrying her for money. I don't want her house. I don't want her trust. I want her." The recording ended there. I started crying. Not because I doubted Daniel. Because I finally heard someone defend me when I wasn't in the room. Maya squeezed my shoulder. Then Ruth said, "There's something else." She clicked into the file folder. "This is the original file from our system, but yesterday evening, someone called asking whether wedding audio could be played through the chapel speakers from a phone." Maya leaned forward. "Who called?" Ruth hesitated. "Your sister." My throat went dry. Ruth said she told our assistant she was preparing a surprise tribute. A surprise tribute. That was what Vanessa called it. A surprise. I asked Ruth for a copy of the original hallway recording. She gave it to me on a small silver USB drive and emailed it to me too. I listened to it 6 times in Maya's car. 6 times. Daniel's voice stayed steady every time. "I love Claire. I am not marrying her for money." By the 7th time, I stopped crying. I started thinking. Maya said, "What are you going to do?" I looked at the chapel through the windshield. I thought about every birthday Vanessa had made about herself. Every family dinner where she corrected my stories. Every time my parents said, "She's just looking out for you." Every time I swallowed my own anger because it was easier than being called sensitive. Then I said, "I'm going to let her try." Maya turned toward me. "You're serious?" "Yes." "Claire, she's planning to humiliate you at your wedding." I know. And you're just going to wait. I looked down at the silver USB drive in my palm. No, I'm going to prepare. That afternoon, I told Daniel everything. When he heard the recording, he didn't panic. He just said, "Your wedding day is becoming a courtroom." I said, "Then we play the truth." That almost broke me. Because he wasn't worried about himself. He was worried about me. I said, "Vanessa wants me to panic. She wants me to run, cry, collapse, and prove her point." Daniel sat beside me again. "What do you want?" "I want to marry you. Then we get married. And if she plays it." He looked at the lake. "Then we play the truth." That night, Maya connected me with a lawyer and a digital forensic specialist. I needed to know what I could legally reveal, and I needed proof that Vanessa had edited the recording. By midnight, we had it. Vanessa had cut Daniel's words apart and rearranged them. "I don't love Claire for money" became "I don't love Claire." "I am not marrying her for money" became "I am marrying her for money." It was Daniel's voice, but it was not Daniel's truth. By the next morning, I had the truth in 3 forms. A silver USB drive, a printed folder, and the original audio file saved on my phone. That day, Vanessa acted sweeter than she had in months. That was how I knew she was ready. She smiled at Daniel, hugged him in front of everyone, and watched me like she was checking whether her trap was still locked. Later, Vanessa came into the bridal suite while I was alone with my dress. She touched the lace and said, "You know it's not too late." I said, "Daniel loves me." She smiled. Love is easy to fake when there's something to gain. There it was. The real wound. Not Daniel. Not money. May. Vanessa believed no one would choose me unless something came attached. She believed I was someone people only loved by mistake or for profit. I said quietly, "Is that what you think of me?" She blinked. "What?" "That no one would choose me unless there was something attached." Her expression changed for half a second. Something ugly slipped through. Then she softened her face again. "I think you're trusting, too trusting." "No," I said, "that's not what I asked." She looked away. And in that small silence, I got my answer. Vanessa didn't just want to stop my wedding. She wanted to prove I was still the younger sister who needed saving. The one who couldn't be chosen. The one who couldn't be trusted with her own life. She kissed my cheek before leaving. Her lipstick was cold. "Get some sleep," she whispered. "Tomorrow will be unforgettable." After she left, I locked the door. Then I took out the silver USB drive and placed it inside my bridal clutch. I added the printed folder to a white envelope and gave it to Maya. Then I wrote one sentence on the back of my vows. "Not for Daniel. For Vanessa." I didn't know if I would use it. But I wanted it near me. The next morning, my wedding day arrived, too beautiful for what was coming. While Maya adjusted my veil, she asked, "Do you want to stop her before she does it?" I said, "No, she chose the stage, I'm just turning on the lights." Maya nodded. Then she handed me my bouquet. Down the hall, I could hear the string quartet begin. The sound made my chest ache. Not with fear, with grief. A part of me still mourned the sister I wished I had. But another part of me was finally ready to stop protecting the one who kept hurting me. My father walked me to the chapel doors. Before they opened, I told him, "Whatever happens today, listen all the way through." He looked confused. Then the doors opened. Everyone stood. And there was Daniel at the altar. He looked at me like the room had disappeared. For 3 seconds, Vanessa did too. Then I saw her. Front left. Maid of honor dress. Perfect hair. Phone in her hand. She was smiling. The ceremony began normally. That was the cruelest part. The pastor welcomed everyone. My father kissed my cheek and sat down. Daniel took my hands. His palms were warm. The pastor spoke about commitment, patience, and building a life with honesty. I almost laughed at that word. Honesty. Then the pastor said, "Before the vows, I understand the maid of honor has prepared a short tribute." My mother smiled. My father looked surprised. I turned slowly toward Vanessa. She stepped forward with the microphone. Maya, standing beside me, reached into the fold of her dress where she had hidden the white envelope. Daniel's fingers tightened around mine once. Just once. Vanessa faced the guests. Her voice trembled beautifully. "I wasn't sure whether to do this," she began, "because I know some truths are painful." A murmur moved through the chapel. She glanced at me, eyes shiny. But I love my sister too much to stay silent. My mother whispered, "Vanessa." Vanessa held up her phone. "Claire has always believed the best in people. It's one of the things we love about her, but sometimes people take advantage of that." Vanessa continued. "3 days ago, I overheard something that broke my heart. I recorded it because I knew no one would believe me otherwise." That was the first lie. She had not overheard it. She had created it. The second lie came when she pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the chapel speakers. "I don't love Claire. I'm marrying her because it's the easiest way into the Bennett money." The room exploded in whispers. Someone said no. My mother stood. My father turned toward Daniel with a face I will never forget. Confusion. Pain. Anger looking for somewhere to land. Vanessa lowered the phone and looked at me. A tear slid down her cheek. Perfect timing. "I'm sorry," she said. "I couldn't let you marry him without knowing." The pastor looked horrified. Daniel opened his mouth, but I squeezed his hand. "Not yet." Vanessa expected me to cry. She expected me to run. She expected me to slap Daniel or collapse into my mother's arms. She expected the old Claire. The edited Claire. The one she had been presenting to the world for years. Instead, I let go of Daniel's hand and stepped toward her. The chapel went quiet enough to hear the air conditioner humming. I said, "Thank you, Vanessa." Her face flickered. "Just a little." "What?" "Thank you," I repeated, "for giving me the perfect moment to play the original." The silence changed. Before, it had been shocked. Now it was alert. Vanessa's hand tightened around the microphone. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do." Maya walked forward and handed me the white envelope. Vanessa's eyes dropped to it. For the first time all day, she looked afraid. I took the microphone gently from her hand. She didn't let go at first. We stood there, both holding it. 2 sisters in front of 200 people. One trying to keep the lie alive. One finally refusing to die inside it. I said softly, "Let go." She did. I turned to the guests. My sister just played a recording of my fiancé. What you heard was his voice, but not his words. Vanessa laughed too sharp. "Oh, Claire." I looked back at her. "No, you don't get to do that today." Her mouth closed. I opened the envelope. The file Vanessa played was edited. Words were cut, moved, and rearranged to change the meaning. I held up the envelope. And I have the original. People shifted in the pews. My aunt leaned forward. Daniel's mother put both hands over her heart. I continued. The original recording came from the chapel hallway during our walkthrough 3 days ago. Vanessa followed Daniel and questioned him about my grandmother's lake house, my trust, and whether he was marrying me for money. My mother looked at Vanessa. Is that true? Vanessa whispered I was protecting her. I ignored her. Then I looked at Ruth, the chapel coordinator, standing near the back. Ruth, can you please connect my phone to the speakers? Ruth moved fast. Maybe she had been waiting. Maybe she had daughters. Maybe she just hated liars. The cable clicked into my phone. My hands did not shake. That surprised me. I opened the original file. Before I pressed play, I looked at Daniel. He nodded once. I played it. Vanessa's voice came first. You need to understand something. Claire is not strong enough for a hard life. A ripple moved through the room. Then Daniel's voice. Claire is stronger than anyone in your family gives her credit for. My father looked down. Vanessa's face went white. The recording continued. Vanessa said, you're a teacher. Claire has the house. She has grandma's trust money. You know exactly what this marriage does for you. Daniel said, I don't love Claire for money. There it was. The sentence she had butchered. The truth standing in the open. Then Vanessa's voice again. So if she had nothing, you'd still marry her. Daniel answered, yes. No hesitation. No pause. Just yes. Then the final part. I love Claire. I am not marrying her for money. I don't want her house. I don't want her trust. I want her. The recording ended. No one spoke. That silence was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was not empty. It was full of things breaking. My mother sat down slowly. My father covered his mouth. Daniel's brother wiped his eyes. And Vanessa stood at the altar with nowhere left to hide. I took a breath. Then I said the line I had written on the back of my vows. You were supposed to stand beside me because you loved me. Instead, you tried to destroy me because you couldn't control me. Vanessa's lips parted. For once, she had no prepared answer. I turned to the guests again. My sister did not just question my fiancé, she edited his words. She planned to play that fake recording at my wedding. She wanted me humiliated in front of everyone I love. My voice almost cracked on that last word. But it didn't. So let me be clear, Daniel and I are getting married today, not because nothing happened, but because the truth happened before the vows. Vanessa suddenly stepped toward me. Claire, you don't understand, I did this for you. I looked at her. No, you did this to me. Her eyes filled with real tears now. Not the pretty kind. The angry kind. You're making me the villain because you can't admit I'm right. I stared at her. Right about what? That you're naive. The word snapped through the chapel. There she was. Finally. No soft concern. No protective sister mask. Just the truth. I said, no, Vanessa, I was trained to doubt myself. That's not the same thing as being naive. She looked around, realizing people were listening. Really listening. So she changed tactics. She turned to our father. Dad, say something. My father stood. For one moment, I was 10 years old again, waiting for him to decide whether Vanessa had gone too far or whether I was being too sensitive. He looked at her, then at me, then at Daniel. His voice was low. Vanessa, did you edit that recording? She cried harder. I was trying to save her. That's not what I asked. The chapel held its breath. Vanessa wiped her face. She wouldn't listen. My mother made a small sound, like someone had dropped something fragile inside her chest. My father nodded once slowly. Then he stepped out of the front row and walked toward me. He stopped beside Daniel. And he said, "I'm sorry, Claire." 2 words. Not enough to fix years, but enough to mark the moment. Vanessa shook her head. You're choosing him. My father looked at her. No, I'm choosing the truth. That was when Vanessa lost control. Not with screaming. Not the way people do in movies. She simply looked smaller. Like the room had finally stopped feeding her. She turned to my mother. Mom. My mother was crying. But she did not stand. She did not defend her. She did not say, your sister means well. She just whispered, how could you? Vanessa looked at me then. And for the first time in my life, she looked at me like I had power. She hated it. I hope you're happy, she said. I looked at Daniel. Then at Maya. Then at the guests who had watched me nearly get destroyed and then watched the truth put itself back together. I'm not happy about this, I said. I'm free from it. The pastor cleared his throat, unsure whether he was allowed to breathe. Daniel stepped beside me. His voice was calm. Vanessa, you need to leave. She laughed bitterly. You don't get to tell me to leave my sister's wedding. I said, he doesn't, I do. Her face changed. I had never said anything like that to her before. Not publicly. Maybe not even privately. Maya stepped forward and stood beside me. Then Daniel's brother stood. Then my father. No one touched Vanessa. No one dragged her out. No one made a scene. That would have given her something to fight. Instead, the room simply stopped making space for her. And that was worse. Vanessa picked up her phone from the small table near the altar. Her hands were shaking. She looked at me one last time. You'll regret this. I said no, I'll remember it clearly. Then she walked down the aisle alone. No music. No dramatic exit. Just the sound of her heels against the wooden floor. The chapel doors closed behind her. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then my grandmother's sister, Aunt June, stood up from the third row. She was 82 and had a cane she used mostly to point at people. She looked at the pastor and said, well, are we having a wedding or a crime documentary? A nervous laugh moved through the room. Then another. Then the tension cracked. The pastor blinked, gathered himself, and turned back to Daniel and me. Claire, he said gently, Daniel, would you like a few minutes? I looked at Daniel. His eyes were wet. Do you? I asked. He smiled a little. I've been ready. That was when I finally cried. Not because I was broken. Because I was. Maya fixed my veil again. This time her hands were trembling. She whispered, you did it. I whispered back, no, we did. Then I turned toward Daniel. The pastor began again. This time every word felt different. Commitment. Truth. Protection. Not the kind Vanessa had claimed. The real kind. The kind that does not require control. The kind that does not need silence. When it was time for vows, Daniel took my hands and said, "I loved you before I knew about any house, any trust, or any family history, and I love you now standing here fully yours." Then I read minds. "You never made me earn love by being quiet. Today, I choose you not as rescue, not as escape, but as my partner in a life where no one else gets to vote." The pastor pronounced us husband and wife 17 minutes later than planned. Nobody cared. When Daniel kissed me, the chapel erupted. Not polite applause. Not careful applause. Real applause. The kind people give when they know something almost got stolen and wasn't. At the reception, Vanessa's seat stayed empty. No one asked me to forgive her. No one told me to keep the family together. For the first time, peace did not depend on my silence. Later that night, Daniel and I went back to the lake house. I placed the silver USB in a small box with my vows and one dried rose from my bouquet. Not because the betrayal belonged with my wedding. Because the truth did. People still ask if I forgave Vanessa. I tell them I don't hate my sister. But I don't hand her the microphone anymore. She walked into that chapel holding the fake version of my life. I walked out holding the original. And for the first time, no one else was holding the file.